Okay, we're doing Holy Grail of Wisdom quotes by me, Pete Rogers, alphabetical order. We're on Isocrates, Greek philosopher. Just one quote by him. Whom do I call educated? First, those who manage well the circumstances of their day with accurate judgment and efficient productive work. Second, those who are agreeable, reasonable, and honorable in all their interactions with men. And third, those who have good self-control. Okay, next one is Alec Isiganis, just a good quote here. He says, a camel is a horse designed by a committee. Yeah, great achievements. They always come from one individual, maybe guiding a group, but it's one mind that has the unity to put things together. They benefit greatly from conversations with other, but this idea, well, I'm not even going to go any more with that. That's been well known for a long time. Tesla, Steve Wozniak, etc. Okay, Holbrook Jackson. He lived from 1874 to 1948. He says, there is no better advertisement for a book than to condemn it for obscenity. Books worth reading are worth rereading. Yeah, whenever you read a book, you go back over it. I usually put these little Post-its in there, or I make notes in the back of the book and telling myself what I want to go back to or what I'm learning from it. And then I'll go back through the book again and add it to some larger text file, or I'll make a video about it or something. But it's that second time. The first time you go through, you're just finding the information, saying good information here, good information here, good information here. And the second time you go through it is that, yes, I'm going to keep this information, because it's basically a knowledge management system, so I have long-term retention, to put it into some type of text file or make a video about it, or whatever. Okay, your library is your portrait, of your brain. That's kind of funny, but it's true. You can get a very good sense of who somebody is by looking at their library. And if they don't have a library, then they're stupid, okay? Because I know lots of people. They're not stupid. I mean, they got genetic intelligence, but they don't have much accumulated intelligence. So, in order to do sophisticated thinking, you have to have a lot of information to work with. And if you don't read, you're not going to have that information, because most of the information, it comes from books. You can learn a lot from YouTube videos, but you need to supplement that with reading. Okay, Holbrook Jackson continues, education begins by teaching children to read and then ends by making most of them hate reading. Yeah, basically they do that on purpose, the public schools. Freshman year of high school, forcing kids to read Julius Caesar when they're not ready yet. The reason they make them read Great Expectations is to tell them you're a racist, okay? And then they make them read Catcher in the Rye, which is like a psychotic, crazy drug book, and then they make them read Great Expectoration of Charles Dickens, his worst, absolute worst, terrible book. Anybody goes through that as a freshman, they're like, screw this, reading sucks, man, it's painful. So that's why you got to read on your own, pick your own books. Okay, here's a quote by Mahalia Jackson, the singer. She says that blues are songs of despair, but gospels are songs of hope. Yeah, that's why I love Christian music. I love gospel music. I don't care about the blues. I don't care about jazz. Most forms of music I don't care about much. The best music is Christian music, because it's uplifting. It's joyful. It's calming. It's hopeful. It's peaceful. It makes you feel good. Okay, life has meaning. It's not just craziness. Okay, William James, he lived from 1842 to 1910. He was a physician, a psychologist, a philosopher, sort of the pragmatist school of philosophy, an American. He has some good quotes. He's a little bit of an opportunist, but he's got some good quotes. He says, what every genuine philosopher, every genuine man in fact craves most is praise. Although the philosophers generally call it recognition, the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Okay, I think men like that. Men really like being complimented and that sort of thing. Women, I don't think they care as much about that. They want you to do something for them. Give them some money, buy them a gift, do a favor for them. They care about that. Okay. It depends on the situation, of course. Everybody likes a compliment. William James, if you give appreciation to people, you will their goodwill. And it depends. With women, everything's different. It always depends on the context. With a man and a woman, there's always a sexual context. Are you hitting on me? So if she thinks you're attracted to her and you compliment her, then that's bad, because then it means it looks like you're needy. You're trying too hard. You signal too much interest, and nothing's going to come of it. Okay. So with a woman, you have to not compliment her to act like you're a big enough man to have her. It's weird, but there's all these games that have to be played. Okay, William James, the good we do today becomes the happiness of tomorrow. The whole function of philosophy ought to be to find out the definite difference it will make to you and me if this world formula or that world formula be the true one. Yeah, so a very self-centered perspective, which sometimes, of course, we all need to. The most important person in our life is ourselves, and then the people we care about the most. An idea is true so long as to believe it is profitable to our lives. True is whatever proves itself to be good. Truth is what works. So that's what I meant by opportunist. You can say, it is true that that is most beneficial for me, but that's not the same as it objectively being true. What is the cash value of that idea? How useful is it to me? Whenever two people meet, there are really 6 people present. There is each man as he sees himself, each man as the other person sees him, and each man as he really actually is. My first act of free will is to accept the fact that I have free will. The greatest discovery of our age is that people can change their lives by changing their attitudes. And there's some truth in that. If you basically look at something from a negative side, you're not going to do much with it. But if you look at it and say, how can I turn it into something positive, like the Jablonski theory of personality disintegration and reintegration, then you can make it good. So, like when I was sad, I got hurt for wrestling, I said, oh gosh, I got all this energy, frustration. I'll just put it into academics. And that gave me a lot of energy for academics. So I would have rather been healthy and been able to wrestle better, but at least something good came out of it. William James, pessimism leads to weakness, optimism to power. Believe that life is worth living, and your belief will help to create the fact. That's one of the great things about Christianity. Christianity says automatically life is worth living. You're all involved in this cosmic struggle for good and evil, and every person, however meager their circumstances, plays an important role. So it honors the pros. And who's the Queen of Heaven? Mary. It honors women. Okay? It honors the family. It honors truth. It honors love. Those are some of the reasons why it's great. It's the best religion in the world, and there's nothing even close. Okay. Okay, we'll continue with William James. There is nothing so absurd that it cannot be believed if it is not repeated often enough. Yeah, that's how people are taught to believe stuff, just by hearing it repeated, even if it's nonsense. For an idea to be suggestive, it must come to the individual with the force of a revelation. Okay. For practical life, the chance of salvation is enough. The existence of the chance makes the difference between a life of which the keynote is resignation and a life of which the keynote is hope. What I would say with that is, a lot of things in life are kind of screwed, and you say to yourself, well, I'm half screwed, but I'll do the best I can. At least I'm not totally screwed. I'll do the best I can. Like for a long time, it looked hopeless that Western civilization is going to be destroyed, but I'll do what I can to save it. Maybe I'll be able to help, maybe not, but I'll give it a try. The pros are screwed in terms of health and a lot of other things, but I'll do the best I can to help them. Maybe I'm just wasting my time and I'm just going to be totally shadow banned or deleted from YouTube, but as long as I'm here, I'll do the best I can. And it makes me feel good that at least I tried. So that's what you do. And everybody's got their own circumstance. You just do the best you can, and if everybody did that, we'd all be better off. Okay, metaphors enable us to think concretely about abstract things. What can you do after learning this that you couldn't do before? Yeah, that's the key question. Like, is it worth my time to watch this video? Is it worth my time to take this class? Is it worth my time to read this book? So, William James, he's good for, basic practical thinking. He says, the world is only beginning to see that the wealth of a nation consists more than anything else in the number of superior men that it harbors. Geniuses are ferments, and when they come together, as they have done in certain lands at certain times, the whole population seems to share in the higher energy which they awaken. The effects are incalculable and often not easy to trace in detail, but they are pervasive and momentous. America's got tons of geniuses, but they're usually beaten down and told to shut up with a fist in their face. And if you don't think that's true, then you're not a genius, okay? If you understand what it's like to be a genius, you know that's true. And so, if you want to have geniuses in a country look like Athens in ancient Greece in the 400s, before Christ, with all the great playwrights, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, the great historians, Herodotus and Thucydides, the great statesmen, Pericles, philosophers, Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, all this stuff. If you want that type of thing, you got to let people talk freely and shut up with all this BS about political correctness and diversity and all this DEI bullshit and just say, who is the best? Get the best people, whatever color, race, whatever. Get the best people for whatever the activity is, and you will get the best people. But if you say, I've got to have one midget, one Asian, one purple person, one this, one that, then you're no longer chasing meritocracy and excellence, and you won't get it. Okay, so, if you want excellence, you got to leave it alone and let it be. And, America doesn't do that anymore, and that's why America is becoming third world. If America would just say, let the best people at the thing they do the best, you'll have greatness all over the place. And let them speak freely. Get rid of all this political correctness BS. Okay, anyways, let's continue with William James. Let's see, was there anything else? Oh yeah, because like I said, there's a lot of great artists. Like you go to the Museum of Modern Art and it's a piece of crap. Everything's a piece of crap in a Museum of Modern Art. It's all fake. But there's actually a lot of great artists right now in America. I've seen them. I've seen their paintings, but no one ever sees their paintings because they're not allowed in the museums. They're not promoted by any of the midstream media. Okay, anyways, let's continue with William James. The more of our daily life we can hand over to automatism, like get a machine to do it or another person to do it, the busy work, the more of the higher powers of the mind will be set free for their own proper work. Yep, that is true. To study the abnormal is the best way of understanding the normal. Compared to what we ought to be, we are only half awake. We are making use of only a small part of our physical and mental resources. Speak for yourself, pal. The aim of a college education is to teach you to know a good man when you see one. We learn most about a thing when we view it under a microscope, as it were, in its most exaggerated form. The first thing that an intellect does with an object is to class it with something else. Yeah, that's how we judge something. We compare it to something else. It's like this or it's not like this. It's as good as this or better than this or not as good as this. Okay, William James continues. Genius means little more than the faculty of perceiving in an unhabitual way. Genius is the capacity for seeing relationships where lesser men see none. The great use of life is to spend it for something that will outlast it. Yeah, if you're chasing a goal, you feel happy while you're chasing the goal, and you'll be more likely to achieve something that helps other people if you do that. Touch is the alpha and omega of affection. Yeah, like a woman likes you, or at least she's pretending to like you if she touches you. Anyways, I hope you found that helpful.